Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with a brand new franchise ranking. And this franchise ranking is going to be for Pirates of the Caribbean, all 5 movies. So yeah, for those of you that probably already do know, these were the films that launched Johnny Depp's career. He was a leading actor. Around the time he was only in cult films, but once Pirates Curse of the Black Pearl came out, he became a leading man actor and even got an Academy Award nomination for his role as Captain Jack Sparrow. So, with that being said, let's start off with ranking the movies. And let's get on with the movie that started it all Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. When this movie was announced, everyone just laughed at how stupid they thought it would be. Because the pirate genre was really just dying at the time. Nobody even cared about pirate movies anymore. Or the genre was just dead. And plus it was based off a Disneyland ride. And even those films at that time did not even work. Like specifically Eddie Murphy's Pitiful Haunted Mansion film. But, however, despite everyone thinking it would be a flop, it turned out to be a terribly amazing. Yeah, it turned out to be an epic film. Big film. It was the first Disney movie to be rated PG-13, and it launched Johnny Depp's career, like I've already mentioned, and gave Orlando Bloom his second best role behind Legolas in Lord of the Rings. So, what is the movie about? Well, a pirate named Captain Jack Sparrow arrives at Port Royal in the Caribbean without a ship or crew. His timing is in opportune. However, it becomes later that evening the town is besieged by a pirate ship. The pirates kidnap the governor's daughter, Elizabeth Swan, who is in possession of a valuable coin that is linked to a curse that has transformed the pirates into the undead. A gallant blacksmith named Will Turner, who is in love with Elizabeth, allies with Sparrow in pursuit of the pirates. And here's absolutely why the movie rocks so much. Because the acting is spectacular and amazing, especially from Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. It's got beautiful cinematography. The setting for the film is great and accurately designed to the 1700s, around the time piracy was gold. The film's plotline is very original, exciting, and well developed. It's very likable and unforgettable characters like Captain Jack Sparrow, Elizabeth Swan, and Will Turner. And of course, let's not forget one of my favorite character in the series, Hector Barbossa, who is such an entertaining antagonist in this film, and Jeffrey Rush does an amazing job playing him. That's probably my favorite role from Jeffrey Rush of all time. Some brilliant, nicely done pacing throughout the movie, and numerous amounts of funny, action-packed, and memorable moments, such as the one-on-one fight scene between Sparrow and Barbossa, and the action-packed music that goes along with it. So amazing character development, such as with Elizabeth Swan, turning from modest woman to rebellious pirate, and Barbossa, who goes from this gritty pirate villain to one of Jack Sparrow's newest allies in the sequels. Anyways. Some brilliant musical score and soundtrack from Klaus Bettel, especially that he's a pirate's son. So yeah, but however, the bad qualities, well, yeah, it gets kind of corny at times, and most of Jack Sparrow's new pirate crew don't really get much screen time in this film. Well, thankfully they fix in the sequels, and Jack Sparrow's new crew he forms in this film actually get more screen time in the second and third films, so they fixed that. But how would I rank this? Well, I would rank this film a 9 out of 10. It's my second favorite movie in the series. Raised despite apparently being the most acclaimed movie of the franchise, but here's what really is my favorite film of the franchise, guys. Yes, this is my favorite one in the series. Guys, don't care what the critics say. And my all-time favorite Pirates of the Caribbean movie would be Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Yes, I consider this a very underrated sequel. It's my favorite pirate movie of all time and my favorite Pirates of the Caribbean movie ever. Because and this was also the very first movie I saw more than two times in the theaters when it came out when I was around 7. Yeah, I was around 7 when this movie came out, and I went to see it twice in the theaters because back then I was a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan, and I got introduced to Curse of the Black Pearl in 2005, so I wanted to watch, and then I went to watch this film 2 times in the theaters that summer. The movie was released around 2006, And this movie is about when ghostly pirate Davy Jones comes to collect the blood debt, Captain Jack Sparrow must find a way to avoid his fate lest his soul be damned for all time. Nevertheless, the wily ghost manages to interrupt the wedding plans of Jack's friends Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann, who now must once again be caught on another adventure with Jack Sparrow. And this is why this movie is my all-time favorite film in the series. I mean, because once again, like the first film, the performances of Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, Orlando Bloom as Will Turner, Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Swann all still do a spectacular job in this film. The soundtrack performed by Hans Zimmer is once again even more awesome, and still faithful to Klaus Badal's soundtrack of the same name. Gore Verbinski still does a great job directing this movie, and he's to me is the only director of this series. Great visual effects, which is a step up to the first movie, and the CGI for Davy Jones and the crew of the Flying Dutchman is amazing. And guys, Davy Jones, I consider my third favorite motion capture character of all time, behind first place being Gollum from Lord of the Rings, and second place being Thanos from the MCU. The bone cage scene is very entertaining, the Kraken scenes are very intense, and even though they are a little climatic, and it's got one of the best, my favorite plot twists and favorite cliffhanger endings of all time, and that is the somehow revival of Hector Barbosa, even though he was, spoilers, killed in the first film. I'm glad they got him back for this. Because since he's one of the best characters ever, I could not wait for the third film. Actually, I didn't know there was even going to be a third film around when I saw this movie, but when someone announced it was actually going to be a back-to-back 2 sequels being shot, I actually got really pumped. Amazing action sequences, humor is still on top-notch, the world building is impressive, nice looking sets that still retain the 17,000s Caribbean culture. Once again, like the cinematography was still amazing, it still has decent camera work, and some great quotes, especially Jack Sparrow's, "I got a jar of dirt, I got a jar of dirt, and guess what's inside it?" That was actually improvised, guys, and actually so many moments were improvised in this movie, like, even the plot twists. When Hector Barbosa is revealed to be alive, all the actors who were seeing him come down the stairs, those were actually their real faces, because they weren't told that Jeffrey Rush was going to be coming back for this movie, so they were actually shocked to see him come back, and I was glad they did that, because it really built up well. Now, despite being my all-time favorite film in the series, here are kind of the bad qualities. Well, yeah, the whole plot can be kind of a little convoluting at times, and it kind of has a bit of the Temple of Doom cliche. It gets way too dark for a PG-13 movie, especially like the scene with the Turkish prison at the beginning. Ugh. I think I was even disturbed by it a little bit. But despite that, it is my all-time favorite film in this series, and I give it a full-on 10 out of 10. It's easily the Empire Strikes Back of the series, or Infinity War of the series, or whatever 2 you want to call it. But despite that, it's always a fun movie to watch. Every time I do a marathon, I only do a marathon of the first 3 guys, because 4 or 5 are so not canon to me. I'm going to get to those in a little bit later, but anyway. Now, on to the third film that came out just a year after this movie in 2007. And that is, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. So, like I have already said, I was excited for this movie. When they announced it, when I found out it was still going to be made, it was actually coming out a year after Dead Man's Chest. Opening night, after school, when I was in elementary school, we immediately went to the theater that night. We got our tickets, then went back to the theater that night, and saw At World's End. And when I saw it, it was still good, but it wasn't as good as the first 2 guys. But then again, this is the third installment of every series. The third installments are always going to be the weakest, or not as great. But what is the movie about? Well, after losing Jack Sparrow to the locker of Davy Jones at the end of Dead Man's Chest, the team of Will Turner, Elizabeth Swann, and Captain Barbosa make their final alliances with the pirate world to take on the forces of Lord Cutler Beckett and his crew, including Davy Jones, who he now has control over. It's not going to be easy, as they must rescue Sparrow, convince other pirate lords to join them, and defeat Cutler Beckett. While each individual pirate has their own route which they wish to follow. yeah, so, like, now, when I saw it, it was a good close to the trilogy, and here's, like, why. I'm gonna list all the good qualities and bad qualities, like, the good qualities, of course, the CGI, the details of the set, the breathtaking details of the sets, the filming sites are very beautiful, all beautiful. This it's still a good like follow up to Dead Man's Chest, and I love how they kind of continue it from here and stuff. Now, and once again, much like with the first two films, Johnny Depp is still hilarious and great as Captain Jack Sparrow. Orlando Bloom is still good as Will Turner, and Keira Knightley is still good as Elizabeth Swann. And there's thankfully no lack of action. They actually still have lots of action in it. And of course, like the build-up is great, and it has one of my favorite battles of all time. That's the battle in the Maelstrom, which I absolutely love. And once again, Davy Jones is still an epic villain, and I give him a little more of a sympathetic side, which I absolutely loved. Loved that, and he actually got his tentacle appearance because his wife Calypso kind of betrayed him in a way. So it was good they gave Davy Jones a little more sympathetic side in this film. And now for the bad like qualities. Well, the movie like dragged on way too long. Like this movie was nearly Lord of the Rings runtime, and I kind of didn't really like that. I kind of wish they shortened it a little bit. But then again, it was supposed to be, or what should have been, the finale at the time. But yeah, I still wish they kind of shortened it because the plot was once again way too convoluted. As they kind of don't know what's going on, and at times, and plus, despite a good performance from Orlando Bloom, Will Turner doesn't really get much use in this movie as he did in the first two, and yeah, that kind of bummed me out a little bit. But thankfully, around the Maelstrom battle, he finally gets a bit of use, which I'm glad that happened. And plus, I also still loved Barbossa in this movie. Maybe how he's now the ally, and stuff. And plus, the pirate crew of the Black Pearl are still good characters. And another thing, and Cutler Beckett, well, he's just kind of a Palpatine knockoff, really. They kind of just went that way, and I kind of didn't like how they made Davy Jones and Cutler Beckett go the Palpatine and Vader way. Like you're Pirates of the Caribbean, not Star Wars. Like, come on, guys. But I can let that pass. But how did I rank it? World, and it also has the best final shot of the movie with Jack Sparrow once again on his bad yachts and just sailing away off into the sunset. That was a great way to end the series. And it also has a perfect end to Will's story arc with him getting control over the Dutchman. Dutchman in the end is a perfect way to end the character story arcs despite not being as good as the first two. So yeah, I would rank it an 8 out of 10. It to me is the true finale to the Pirates of the Caribbean series, and it should have been the finale to the series. They should not have made any more films, but no. They made another one. Yeah. I'm gonna get on to the next two. The ones I hate. Starting with Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Because Gore Verbinski did not want to direct a fourth one, but Disney, of course, decided to make more money. Then again, they were greedy before they ruined Star Wars. And replaced him with Rob Marshall. And they decided to continue the story, remove Will and Elizabeth. Well, at least they didn't include them in this film because their story arc perfectly ended with Our World's End, and I'm glad they decided to leave them alone for this film because this film would have just ruined them if they put it in. What is Stranger Tides about? Well, the checker past of Captain Jack Sparrow catches up to him when he conjures Angelica, a beautiful pirate that Jack once loved, then left. Angelica forced him to accompany her to the Queen Anne's Revenge, the ship of the notorious Blackbeard. Accompanied by a zombie crew, the trio sets sail to find the legendary Fountain of Youth. However, Jack's rival Barbossa also seeks the fountain, as does a ship from Spain. Here's the bad qualities. It wastes the charm of the three previous movies. The story is so unoriginal, as they tried to search for the Fountain of Youth and confronting a real-life pirate Blackbeard. And plus, we can all agree, guys, that the film just, for those who have seen the franchise, the film just pretty much died when it was revealed that Barbossa lost a pearl and it got trapped in a bottle. That pretty much ruined the movie right there. So basically, it was barely even connected to the Pirates of the Caribbean first three movies in, like, any way. And it was revealed that Barbossa also has one leg that... And when he was actually worked with the commandeers, sorts, but... Plus, Jack Sparrow did not need a love interest. Like, I did not like Angelica in this movie, guys. She was barely that interesting of a character, and plus, if we're gonna give Jack Sparrow a love interest, let's just maroon her on the island and rehash his defeat in the first one. I mean, Jack Sparrow's betrayal in the first one. Like, come on, guys. So yeah, Angelica was so pointless. Blackbeard wasn't even an epic villain at all. Like, he was just your typical bad pirate, and plus, I absolutely did not like the mermaid love interest subplot. That is so cringeworthy, so stupid and forced. Like, it could be left out of the movie and it wouldn't change a thing. But whatever. Despite this, Hans Zimmer's score is still the best selling point of the whole thing. But all in all, guys, despite that, it's not as terrible as the next one I'm about to get to, but how would I rank it? I would rank it a 5 out of 10. It's terrible, but not as bad as the next upcoming one I'm going to get to. Because here we go! This is easily, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17... 7 years after On Stranger Tides, we got the all-time worst film in the series, and that's Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Oh my friggin' god. Let's just get this one over with. Despite Pirates of the Caribbean On Stranger Tides getting not so good reviews, it made over $1 billion at the box office. So, of course, eventually they decided to go make another one. Once again, not directed by Goran Verbinski, instead directed by Joachim Ronan and Espen Sandberg, who completely both ruined the franchise. Like, this was not needed. It was just another stupid cash grab. It was almost just as bad as the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Then again, this movie came out in 2017 as well, which was not a good year at all. But here's what the movie's about. Thrust into an all-new venture, a down-on-his-luck Captain Jack Sparrow feels the winds of ill fortune blowing even more strongly when deadly ghost sailors led by his old nemesis, the evil Captain Salazar, escape from the Devil's Triangle. Jack's only hope of survival lies in seeking out the legendary train of Poseidon, but to find it, he must forge an uneasy alliance with a brilliant and beautiful astronomer and a headstrong young man in the British Navy. Who's Lil Turner's son, guys? Here's why this is the worst one in the series. It's literally a rehash of Curse of the Black Pearl with elements of the other films, focusing too much on Easter eggs in earlier films rather than the actual plot. And speaking of the plot, it's confusing and difficult to follow due to there being too many subplots about different characters, and it doesn't even reference its predecessor On Stranger Tides to the point it looks more like a sequel to the original trilogy rather than to the fourth film, which seems to be the start of a new trilogy where the fifth film opted to bring back Will Turner as a Swan, which I guess is for the best, because On Stranger Tides was barely even a canon film in the series. It barely had any connection to the original trilogy to begin with. If the only reference it has is the Black Pearl still being shrunken, and Barbossa commanding the Queen Anne's revenge, and the mention of Blackbeard, it would seem like the fourth film had never existed. It never explains, spoilers, guys, I'll get that part later. Rather than laying the plot film normally, the narration tells us that the plot is through a discussion of a bunch of characters towards the beginning of the film. And the characters are poorly written and forgettable, like Pig Kelly and Sister Beatrice, even look out of place, and their scenes seem to be just filler. And poor grasps of the franchise lore, like characters use Apparition to get to the Bahamas, despite the lore stating that Apparition is banned in Bahama grounds. Some very slow pacing, and actually, Blackbeard isn't the #1 worst villain, The worst villain is Captain Salazar, who is the worst villain of the whole franchise. A bland personality, forgettable goals, and he just looks like a complete moron. Even though, like, I didn't mind Javier Bardem's performance, like, he was good in the role for what he was given, it was not good enough to make him even a great villain. And his motives are not even new. As Beckett from the second and third films had the same plans as him, and they were better thought out. And even though he's shown as one of the main antagonists, he never hardly gets much screen time to be a supporting character, so he's kind of pointless. And while the visual effects are great, the de-aging and depth is very uncanny. And although Marty, Murtaugh, and Morway were previously assumed to be dead due to Blackbeard's attack on the Black Pearl, they're somehow back in this movie with no explanation. And other parts in the original trilogy, like Raggedy and Pinsel, the two comic reliefs of the first three movies, don't even return, even though they could have done the same as with Marty, Murtaugh, and Morroy. And then Bootstrap Turner doesn't even return, despite his promise to stay at the Flying Dutchman and Will have a grandson. Did he get just bored and left? And plot hole. Once again, they're full of this. The biggest one would be regarding Jack's compass. It's shown that if Jack abandons compass, then Salazar and his crew would be freed from the Devil's Triangle. But in the previous films, Jack gave his compass to Will Turner, Elizabeth, Angelica, etc. Nothing happened for some reason. And while it's good that Will Turner came back in this movie after his absence, he's only in the beginning and the end, so it's kind of pointless for him to even come back. Oh yeah. And then the post-credit scene. Since they revert the curse and Will is freed from the Dutchman at the very end, it somehow ends up bringing back Davy Jones in the movie, making the original trilogy just pointless. I get he's a good character, but they should just keep him dead. They don't explain how he got back, and plus, it's a disappointing end to the franchise because the sixth film in the works was ultimately cancelled and replaced, and we're now going to be getting a female-centric reboot starring Margaret Robbie, thanks to Johnny Depp's wife, Amber Heard, of domestic abuse, since, even though it teased in our sequel in this post-credit scene, and because of that, I'm going to get out of talk for guys. Amber Heard is the reason, this is the exact reason, I am not going to watch Aquaman 2, guys. There, I said it, yes. I'm not watching Aquaman 2 because of this reason. I will not watch any movies with Amber Heard because I cannot tolerate her. I do not even like her character in the first Aquaman movie, so yeah, I'm not going to go watch Aquaman 2. But for the good qualities, the visual effects are still great, there's still some multiple good performances, a passable soundtrack, swashbuckling action still well, Jack Sparrow's still a likable protagonist, and it does have a couple familiar lines and jokes that were brought from the previous films, and bringing back Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann was actually kind of a good move, as we did miss them and kind of wanted to see them return. Beginning with Jack and his crew literally robbing a bank by dragging it through St. Martin is very funny and creative, and Barbossa's death actually did get a pretty good send-off, was well executed and significant, and ending his redemption arc in a very heartwarming, poignant way, so I'm glad they gave him a great ending because he definitely needed it. However, despite those good qualities, it's still the worst movie in the series, and I would give it a full-on 0 out of 10. It's so bad, it's so stupid, and it's so poorly directed, and guys, Pirates of the Caribbean is only the first three. At World's End was the true ending to Pirates of the Caribbean, not that pitiful Dead Man Tell Tales movie, so yeah. But all in all, guys, that's it for my ranking of Pirates of the Caribbean. So how am I going to rank them? Well, number 1 best, Dead Man's Chest. Second place, Curse of the Black Pearl. Number 3, At World's End. Number 4, On Straighter Tides. And bottom worst, Dead Man Tell Tales. That's how I'd rank the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But anyway, guys, that'll be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.